So, just as DC was finally starting to produce some really good content with shows like Peacemaker and movies like The Batman and upcoming exciting projects like Black Adam, Warner Brothers goes and merges with Discovery, now being called Warner Bros. Discovery, and apparently some big changes are coming to DC. It sounds like DC is actually looking for their own Kevin Feige type of figure to run things over at DC. Now, Marvel Studios has obviously been crushing it. Kevin Feige is definitely the one to get credit. There's a lot of people involved, but we know that Kevin Feige's at the helm. Does it make sense for DC to have somebody like this, or could this be a bad idea? Depending on your views, this could be a really good thing for DC, or it could be a really bad thing for DC. Now, Variety released an article that has exclusive details about what DC is thinking, and apparently it could get a complete overhaul. What's going on, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. We normally talk Marvel, but I love DC too, and this is some pretty big news. So let's go over this article and talk about what exactly this means. Now, it starts off by saying the new owners of all things Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are exploring an overhaul of DC entertainment. It says, before the merger closed, Zaslav, who is the CEO now, vetted candidates with experience in creating and nurturing blockbuster intellectual property with the goal of potentially finding someone to serve as a creative and strategic czar, similar to what Marvel has in Kevin Feige. Now, right away, people have kind of been making this comparison for a pretty long time now. People have been saying DC needs somebody like Kevin Feige that is in charge of everything, somebody who has a vision. But right off the bat, here's the thing about Kevin Feige. He's a huge comic book fan. He really is into everything that he does. And I think the problem with DC is that it's really been run by a company. It's been ran by a lot of different people, throwing a lot of different suggestions out there. And I think the success that they found recently was letting people kind of do their own thing, having these directors come in and these writers come in like James Gunn go, this is what I got from the comics. I'm a screenwriter, I'm a developer, I produce things, I know what to do, just let me do it. They let him do it, and then magic happens, like the Peacemaker show, which was fantastic. The article continues to say, insiders say that Zaslav believes that the success of the merger, one that has left the company highly leveraged, will rest in no small part on unlocking the potential of DC Comics' universe of characters. Discovery insiders believe that although DC has achieved cinematic success with recent films such as Aquaman and The Batman, it lacks a coherent creative and brand strategy. Discovery believes that several top-shelf characters such as Superman have been left to languish and need to be revitalized. They also believe that projects like Todd Phillips' Joker are a shining example of how second-build characters from DC Library can and should be exploited. Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is another example. Now, he's not wrong here. What he says is it lacks a coherent creative and brand strategy, and I think this was kind of the problem. The strategy kind of seemed like it was all over the place. Now, what's really sad is it seems like some future projects might actually be affected by this. When The Flash, it was kind of supposed to explain everything that DC had under their belts. It was supposed to show us what the plan was, how everything kind of operated. Now, not everything needs to be a Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think one-off things like The Batman and the Joker, I think one-off things like The Batman and Joker, they work, and they kind of work because they are one-off. Yes, you can create other universes within these projects, like Gotham City Police show that's coming out. You can create other things within that universe, but not everything has to be connected. I think these films worked because they weren't. But then you have things like the Suicide Squad and the spin-off, the Peacemaker series, that they also work as well. I don't think they need to be copying Marvel, but I do think they do need to hone in on a better plan. But DC isn't exactly the best at making good judgment calls for comic book characters, and I think that's because the people who are behind all of the decisions aren't exactly true comic book fans. Like I said, Kevin Feige, he's deep in the comics. Kevin Feige, he's deep in the comics. He's read all of these comics. He knows what he's talking about. He knows how to make everything work. So I do kind of agree with what they're talking about here. They should have somebody come in, but unless that person is pretty much exactly like Kevin Feige, but with DC Comics, I don't think that it's going to work. I think the only other option is you bring in people for projects that are like that. Like I mentioned before, James Gunn, Zack Snyder. These worked. The fandom really does enjoy the films that these people make. I think if they wanted to go that route, it might actually be better for them. Now, it seems like they have always lacked a brand strategy. Now, when they first came out with the Justice League, it almost seemed like they were trying to be different than Marvel, like very, very obviously, blatantly different than Marvel. Marvel started off by introducing these characters, they put them all in a universe where they exist, and then they brought them together. They came in to the Avengers not knowing each other, kind of having an idea of who they are because they existed in the same universe and then they worked together. Then they kept doing their own thing, then they brought them back together. DC went and did the opposite. They brought everybody together without really introducing anybody, and then they went, let's now do like their own things. It's something that could have worked if they had a better idea of what they really wanted to do, and unfortunately I think they just really didn't know at the time. Now, the biggest thing here is that I think they want a connected universe, but I don't think they have to do that like I mentioned. I think they should go kind of twofold here. I think they should continue to make their one-off projects because I think those projects are really, really good. I really like the one-off projects, and I think if they continue to do that, they will have a lot of success and they will make good films. However, I do like the idea of having a connected universe. It doesn't have to be on as big of a scale that Marvel does it, but it can be connected because let's face it, we all love to see Batman interact with Superman, with Wonder Woman. We love to see all of that. Now, the article goes on to say that one insider suggested that Zaslav was less interested in finding a creative guru and more eager to hire someone who had the type of business background needed to keep all the different factions of DC working more harmoniously. That could work. Again, I don't think they have to choose between either or. I think they could do both, but this could definitely work because they definitely seem to lack harmony between all of their properties. Most of the time, people don't even know what DC is doing. They put so many projects out there and some are connected and some aren't, but also are in some weird way at the same time. They have multiple different Jokers going on right now. There's multiple different versions of some characters. It's just kind of a mess right now. And again, The Flash was supposed to kind of explain everything. And I think The Flash can do a very good job at setting up DC for a very successful future because they're introducing a multiverse and that opens up a lot of different possibilities. And it also makes it to where everything can be connected without having to really be connected. That's the cool thing about the multiverse. Kind of anything is possible. But the big question is right now, who exactly do they need to come in? What can they actually get from somebody overlooking everything? One, I do think they need this person, but only if it's the right person. And two, I do think this person needs to realize that everything can exist in a large multiverse, but still be one off. I think that is going to be a key to the success of DC because they can't copy Marvel Studios. Everyone's just going to compare it. And don't get me wrong, I love DC characters. Batman is actually my favorite superhero. As much as I talk about Marvel, Batman is my favorite. But what do you think DC actually needs at this point in time? Do you think they need a Kevin Feige type person? Or do you think they need to bring in people like James Gunn and Zack Snyder and just kind of let them do their thing? Let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Are you a fan of DC? And if you are, do you like how things are going so far? Or do you think they actually need this overhaul? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest news. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.